The truth is, most people don't understand how fast a peaceful neighborhood can turn into a hunting ground when society snaps. They think danger comes slowly, like in a movie, with warnings and time to prepare. But collapse doesn't knock. It kicks the door straight off the hinges, and once it starts, you're either ready or you're prey. I'm going to walk you through the 12 steps that separate those who survive from those who simply hope. And I need you to listen closely because every single step builds on the one before it. Miss one, and the whole system starts to crumble. This isn't paranoia. It's basic math. When services stop, when the grid fails, when food runs thin, when law enforcement is overwhelmed or simply not coming, people behave differently. Not because they're evil, but because hunger, fear, and desperation rewrite the rules of morality. And in that moment, the home you're sitting in right now is either a fortress or an invitation. We're building the fortress. The first thing you need to understand is that home defense doesn't start at the door. It starts at the street. If someone walking down your block can instantly tell your house is well-stocked, well-supplied, or simply better than the one next to it, then congratulations, you just painted a target on your chest. So before we talk deadbolts, alarms, or barricades, I need you to grasp the very first law of survival. Be forgettable. I don't care how nice your house is, what the paint looks like, or how much money you put into upgrades. In a collapse, the homes that get hit first are the ones that look like they have something worth stealing. You want your home to look boring, empty, uninteresting. No political signs, no flags, no expensive lawn decor. Nothing that signals wealth, personality, or resources. You want to look like the type of house thieves walk past because they assume no one inside has anything worth taking. In a crisis, invisibility is a superpower, and most people waste it. Once you've removed all the loud, shiny signals, the next step is tightening the perimeter. Most people think their front door is the entry point criminals use, but that's only true for amateurs. The pros, the desperate, the chaotic mobs, the opportunists, they go for the weakest structural points, and a shocking number of American homes can be breached with nothing more than a shoulder and a bad attitude. If you can kick your own door from the inside and feel it flex, you have a problem. No deadbolt will save you if the entire frame splinters, so you reinforce it. 3-inch screws, not the tiny ones that builders use. 3-inch steel screws drilled deep into the studs, through the hinges, through the strike plate, through the frame. 90% of doors instantly go from one kick to multiple failed attempts. That alone scares off half the people who might try. Criminals love easy, make everything hard. But doors are obvious. Windows are where people cut corners. A single window is a silent entry point, a fast one, and in most homes it's barely protected. You're not trying to make your windows unbreakable. That requires cost and engineering that most people don't have. No, what you're doing is making it slow and loud. Security film is the cheapest, most underrated survival tool on the market. It keeps the glass in place long enough that someone breaking in needs repeated hits, and every strike sounds like a shockwave in the night. That buys time, and in a collapse, time is oxygen. And once you've slowed them down, you set the trap. Dowel rods in the sliding tracks, window pin locks, and cheap vibration alarms. Each one adds seconds. Enough seconds to change the outcome of everything that comes next. Now here's where most people fail. They think home defense is all about keeping people out. But the third step is psychological warfare. Controlling what people believe about your home. You need to look poor from the outside, but occupied from the inside. The best way to stop looters is to make them doubt what's behind your walls. Looters don't want to fight. They want a freebie. So you stage your home like the type of place someone is already defending. Leave boots by the door. Hang a dark jacket over a chair visible from a window. Keep a dog bowl on the porch, even if you don't own a dog. None of this is about deception. It's about survival psychology. Predators hunt prey, not threats. Make yourself a question mark. Question marks get skipped. Once you've manipulated perception, you move to the internal zone, creating fallback positions. If someone breaches your home, you don't want the fight to happen at random. You want a funnel movement. You want to control angles. You want to know exactly where they'll step next. And that means rearranging your house with strategy. Furniture is not decoration. It's terrain. You want choke points, narrow passages, places where no one can sprint or rush you. If you have a long hallway, put a shelf halfway down. If you have an open-plan living room, use bookshelves or storage crates to create lanes. You're designing your house the way military planners design urban environments. Every entry point leads to a disadvantage for the intruder and an advantage for you. And this brings us to the heart of your fortress, the safe core. Not a panic room, not a bunker, not a sealed chamber, just a defensible room where your family retreats if something goes terribly wrong. This room needs three things: a solid door, a barrier inside the room that you can push against that door, and communication. In a collapse scenario, you may not be calling police, but you can coordinate with neighbors, family, and allies. And yes, you should have allies. Lone wolves die. Communities survive. If you have radios, keep them in the safe core. If you have security cameras, the monitor goes in there. If you have defensive tools, that's the storage point. You want the safest part of your home to also be the most useful part when things go bad. But a safe core is worthless if you can't see what's happening outside. Information is survival. Cameras are your best friend, not because you'll call the police, but because you'll anticipate movement long before a threat reaches your door. And don't waste money on the expensive monthly subscription services that go down the moment the grid goes down. You want a closed local system, a DVR with wired cameras, night vision if you can afford it. Even cheap ones work. What you want is coverage: front, back, sides, driveway, and at least one angle watching the street. Cameras don't stop intruders, but they let you set ambushes, avoid danger, and spot patterns. If you know when someone is creeping around your neighborhood at 2 a.m., you're no longer reacting. You're preparing. Now we get to the step no one wants to talk about: light discipline. Humans instinctively move toward light. In a blackout, a lit home is a beacon announcing, "We have power, food, and supplies." Do not be that beacon. You need blackout curtains, thick ones. You need interior lighting that doesn't leak onto the street. You should have a red light system, cheap LEDs on portable batteries, because red light preserves night vision and is harder to spot from outside. Think of your house like a submarine running silent. Darkness is camouflage. Light is a flare gun. That camouflage extends to sound. In a grid-down collapse, noise travels farther than you think. A generator humming from a backyard is a siren screaming, "We have fuel and resources." You don't want that. If you have a generator, you need a sound baffle, basically a wooden enclosure lined with insulation. Better yet, run solar with battery backups. A quiet home is a safe home. A noisy home is an advertisement. Next comes the step that separates real preppers from hobbyists: resource deception. If people know you're stocked, you're targeted. Period. So you create the illusion of scarcity. Leave your trash bags half empty. Don't bring in food supplies during daylight. Pack in plain boxes, not branded grocery bags. If you barter, barter small. Never show your full inventory. You want every interaction to communicate the same message: we don't have much, and we can barely spare anything. The people who look rich, stocked, and ready become supply depots for criminals. You are not a supply depot. Now let's talk about the most uncomfortable truth of all. The moment someone gets inside your home, you are in a fight for your life. There is no negotiation, no reasoning, no hoping. That moment decides whether your family sees tomorrow. So you prepare for it now, not with Hollywood fantasies, but with simple principles. Know your angles. Know your exits. Know where you stand if you're forced to defend. This isn't about weapons. It's about geometry and timing. A hallway is better than an open room. A corner is better than a doorway. A height advantage, standing on the second floor landing, can change the outcome of a confrontation. This is your territory. In a crisis, you use it. And once you've built every physical layer, you reinforce it with the most powerful defensive tool you have: your neighbors. People love pretending they can survive alone. But history proves that communities survive collapse, not individuals. So you talk to your neighbors. Not about prepping, not about politics, not about your supplies. You talk about safety. You build trust. You form a quiet network. In a crisis, you need people who will warn you if strangers are watching your house, who will check on your home when you're gone, who will coordinate if looters target your street. A single house is vulnerable. An entire block is a fortress. And finally, the most overlooked step: practice. You can have the best plan in the world, but if your family panics, freezes, or forgets what to do, the plan collapses. So you walk through it. You drill it, not in a scary way, Not in a militaristic way, just simple routines. How do you get to the safe core? Who covers which room? Who handles communication? Who closes the blackout curtains? Who turns off the lights? Who moves the barricade into place? Repetition turns chaos into order, panic into instinct, and instinct saves lives. When collapse hits, and it always hits faster than people expect, the homes that survive are not the ones with the biggest guns or the fanciest gadgets. They're the ones where the owners thought ahead, built layers, stayed invisible, stayed disciplined, and trained like their lives depended on it, because one day they might. If you finish these 12 steps before the crisis comes, your home becomes more than a shelter. It becomes a lifeboat in a storm, a fortress in the dark, a place where your family doesn't just hide, they survive. And in the world we're heading into, where systems are fragile, supply chains stretched thin, grids unstable, and tensions rising, survival isn't a luxury, it's a responsibility, and you're taking the first step.